Hi, I'm here with Mel Mason, an amazing human being who is the clutter expert, but my gosh, so much bigger than that. And I'm so excited because Mel is going to share with you all some just simple upgrades to support yourself. But what I love about your work, Mel, is that we all get to start as exactly who we are, like we're enough. And so I would love for you to just share about your work and how you got here.
Oh my God, Amy, thanks so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here with you today. And I love when it's not a traditional introduction, read my bio. That's like so boring. Like, give me a break. You know, you write those things because people need them or whatever. But it's just like, I just love the connection that we have and just, being spontaneous and just coming from the heart, because that's what it's really all about, being able to be connected to your heart. So, yes, I'm known as the clutter expert, and I didn't get my name by accident. I was actually a cluttered mess. You could not walk in my room. It was completely covered. And I didn't just have stuff all over the place. Like, I was fine having trash on the floor. Like, I didn't care. And to be honest with you, really early in life, I really didn't care if I lived or died. Never mind cleaning my room. Like, the last thing on my mind was getting organized. Like, who cares when you don't want to be in a body on the planet anymore, right? And what I didn't realize at the time is that whatever's going on outside of you, whatever your environment is showing, whether it's the people in your life, your physical space, your body, whatever's going on externally, it's just a mirror of what's going on inside of you. And already at such an early point in my life, I was what I called littered with inner clutter. I had experienced a lot of trauma and loss early in life. My parents, they separated when I was 4 years old, and I had a part-time Sunday dad. I only saw him once a week and never talked to him in between. And at 8 years old, I had three different sexual traumas by three different perpetrators, all within the same year at 8 years old. And then what was almost the nail in my coffin was one of those perpetrators was actually my older brother. He was 5 years older than me. And I got up the courage one night, and I was actually living with him at the time, which is really strange. I idolized him, but yet there was all of this, when you're abused by somebody, all the boundaries are blurred and all of that stuff. And if I wasn't his sister, he wanted me to be his girlfriend. And it was, so I got up the courage to tell him that what he did affect me. And he basically told me that he'd have my stuff ready for me the next day. And I went and stayed at a friend's house. And when I came to pick up my stuff, I walked up the stairs to a note on the door saying, "Doors open, come in." And when I opened the door is when I found my brother. He had hanged himself. He had taken his life. The guilt had been too much for him. And he left a suicide note. And it said, "I'm sorry, I sinned, and I leave everything I own to my sister." So I was like already a cluttered mess. I find my brother in his apartment, and then after they remove the body, I get to go back into his apartment and go through everything and decide what I'm keeping, what other people can have. Like, I don't remember any of it except for feeling like so eerie and so scared, like being like I remember like my dad was like outside, and like I was in the apartment alone, and I was just like, this is so freaking freaky. Like, I'm scared being in here. Like, that's what I remember. And from that point on, I already didn't want to live. So I pretty much decided I was going to end my life exactly the way he did. I was going to wait till a Wednesday, the 20th, and do it the same way. And my high school decided that I was a danger to myself and others. And they're like, you can't come back until you get some intensive therapy. And so, what that looked like for a 15-year-old kid was getting shipped to a psychiatric ward for evaluation, and then a diagnostic center for further evaluation, to find out they're like, no, you still can't go home yet. You're going to go live in this residential treatment center for the next year plus of your life. And so I got shipped off to live in this residential treatment center where I lived in a house on campus, and there was a school just a little walkway up on the same property. So I didn't really get to leave property very much. But unbeknownst to me, it would be the greatest gift that ever happened to me was being living there, because while I was living there, I was introduced to yoga and mindfulness. And ultimately, what that taught me was how to be willing to look and be present for all of the inner clutter that had accumulated throughout my life from all of those traumas and losses. And what the inner clutter really is it's unprocessed emotions. What kid knows how to process sadness and pain and fear and anger and all of that? You don't know how to do that properly, right? And then you have resentments and fears and limiting beliefs that we accumulate from our caregivers, and then all the judgments, right? And so learning to be willing to look at that and be present for that, what started to happen first and foremost was I got the desire to live back. Like I wanted to live again, which I never thought that was going to be possible. And I like had this realization that everything that I had gone through was for a higher purpose. Someday it was going to benefit others. Didn't know it was going to look like this today, but I knew that it was going to benefit others. But what the most amazing thing was that happened was that kid who was fine living in filth and clutter spontaneously started to create order in my environment. And I didn't make any time for it. I didn't plan it. I didn't schedule it. It just happened naturally as a result of being willing to look at the inner clutter, because the outside is only a mirror of the inside. When you address the root, when you make space, energetic space on the inside by letting all of that stuff go, you naturally create space outside and it becomes effortless. So if you've ever tried to get organized and you're like dragging yourself and forcing yourself, you're going from the outside in, and it gets to happen from the inside out. And so really that set me on a mission to really want to empower people to get free from clutter in every area of their lives so that you can thrive, because that's your birthright.
Mm, that is a tragically beautiful story. I mean, just about how to create a miracle out of just profound sadness and tragedy. I thank you for sharing that. That was really, but
Honored to. I mean,
there's
without
just
being
so
able to
much.
share it.
Yeah, well, and I think it's powerful because like I can look at my own situation. Like I have clutter. I can look at my own situation and go, it's possible for me. If it's possible for you, it's possible for me. Right? And part of that, it sounds like you started exactly where you were. You didn't start where you weren't. I think the to-do list, as you were talking, I was like, scheduling and the to-do lists and all of that. And I got to do this. I'm like, wow, that's really starting where you aren't, not where you are. And there's power in starting from where you are. So, so it's clear that this practice for you has transformed your own life. What is your practice in a
Yeah.
nutshell? I know it's, but and an essence of your practice.
Yeah, I love it. And people are going to be like, "What?" Like, cuz it's so super simple. Like
It is
it's
so
so
simple.
mind-blowing. And I wouldn't believe that it worked or it works if it didn't happen to me first, because like I was not trying to get organized. Like I didn't care if I lived or died, right? And learning how to be present, to be willing to look at the inner clutter, I just spontaneously started creating order in my life. And within a year's time, granted, I didn't have a ton of accumulation. I was about 18 by the time I, graduated and had this huge shift in my life. But within about a year's time, I went from that cluttered mess to someone who loves creating order out of chaos and became uber organized. Like all my jobs that I had throughout the years of my life later required me to be organized. And people are like, oh, I don't have the organizing gene. I'm going to call bullshit on that right now, because whatever you believe in, God, source, creator, universe, like created order out of the Big Bang. And that power lives inside of each and every one of us. The only thing that happens is there becomes interference. It gets blocked by the inner clutter. And when you remove the interference, you naturally have the ability to create order in your life. You're just blocked off from it. And so the biggest thing that I teach my clients, and I spend the most time getting them to do, be willing to do and do consistently so they can generate the results, is a practice I call allowing the now. Like, it's simple. I mean, you could reduce it to mindfulness. It's not meditation. So if you're like, I can't quiet my mind down, I can't meditate, great. If you're someone who like labels yourself, oh, I got ADD, I can't do this, I don't buy into labels. But anyway, this is for you, because allowing the now is about allowing your attention to go to whatever's calling it in the moment right now. What's happening right now? And it doesn't matter what it is. Like, there are so many times where I do my 5 minutes. If you got 5 minutes, you can do this. Okay. 5 minutes, guys. Like, that's it to transform your life, right? There's so many times where I'll do my 5 minute practice and I don't know what the hell happened in the 5 minutes. The alarm's going off and it's done. And I'm like, oh, where was I? But I still get the results. And so it's not about being able to quiet your mind down. It's not about anything but a simple willingness to look. And here's the secret sauce and why it works. I mentioned the outside is only a mirror of the inside. It's actually a law like gravity. There's a principle of correspondence. So it's another law. So it's indisputable. You don't have to believe in it for it to work. And that's what I love about it. And so it just states, as above, so below, or as within, so without. So when you change the inside, the outside has to match. And that's when it happens effortlessly. When you try to go from the outside in, it's all of this forcing. So in your willingness to look, you're literally making energetic space inside of yourself from that willingness to look. Because all clutter is accumulating because you're like, nope, don't want to see you. Nope, don't want to see you. Don't want to look at you. Don't want to deal with you. Don't know what to do with you. It's overwhelming. Whatever the story is, it comes down to an unwillingness to look. It's that super simple. And so the only requirement to get free from clutter in every area of your life is a willingness to look within. That's it. It's so super simple and powerful. So allowing the now is what I teach my clients, and you only need to do it for 5 minutes a day.
I love, okay. So true confessions. I attended a workshop and Mel was there and she taught allowing the now. I was like, I'm going to do this every day. I'm committed. And like the first day, I'm like, all these thoughts are just coming in. I'm sitting there for 5 minutes and I'm peeking at my clock. I'm like, it's only been a minute and 15 seconds. And I'm like, okay, I'll keep allowing the now. This is irritating. Like any thought that when are we going to repair the hose bib? Like crazy stuff just coming into my head. It's like literally. And every time it's like this woo of stuff. And what's interesting is then I had a call with you, Mel. I was like, okay, wait. So allowing the now, I don't need to put like all my thoughts on fluffy clouds and having them like float off. Nope. I'm like, I don't have to clear my mind. Nope. I'm like, I get to just be Amy and do this. Yeah. It's amazing. I wouldn't believe it. I mean, I believed it because I committed to it, but I was like, what? I hate taking things to like Goodwill or the thrift shop. I don't know what it is. It's a total block for me up until now. The other day, I just happened to fill up a bag with some stuff and I was like, oh, this paper sack's full. I'm going to the grocery store. I just dumped it off at the Goodwill and just kept going. I didn't even think about, like, I did not even think about it. It's crazy, but it's
That's
totally
like 10 days of practice.
Yeah.
Like a little over 10 days. Like that's like not that long ago. And you're
No,
already spontaneously, unconsciously
completely
doing.
unconsciously getting rid of books. I'm like, I don't need this. I'm good. And it's not like I have to, like before I'd go, okay, today I'm going to tackle the bookcase. I don't need all these books. I got to go through and agonize and make sure I don't get rid of the wrong book. Like crazy. I love books. Okay. And now it's just like, we don't need this book. And it's just natural. I'm not even, and it's just like one book. I walk by, I just pull it off and throw it in a bag. I'm not even carrying a bag to declutter. I'm just, oh, I need to put this in a bag and I get a bag. It's just really interesting how like there is a shift that is magical and just things it just is easier. And I think there's this really fundamental idea that you talk about being in resistance. Um, and I would love for you to just talk a little bit about being in resistance and
Yeah.
kind of what happens.
Yeah, I love it because, when you really think about things, and everything that we do boils down to two energetic states. We can only be in two states. Everything boils down to either we're in resistance to something, whether we're pushing it away or we're desperately hanging on to it because we don't want to let it go. That's all contraction and resistance. Or we can be in a state of allowing. Those are the only two states every experience boils down to. We're either open and we're flowing and life is just flowing through us, or we're like putting up the dam. Nope, we're not going to let you go. We're not going to let this pass through. But the secret is you can't exist in both at the same time.
Mhm.
And it also correlates to, if you're in resistance, it's fear. And if you're in allowing, it's faith. So for those of you that are faith based, it's either fear or faith, or resistance and allowing. And that's why it's like so natural. We've spent most of our lives like in this state of resistance. We resist everything that's uncomfortable, that doesn't feel good. Like we don't want to experience all this emotion. It's so uncomfortable. So I'm going to resist it and I'm going to stick it. Or, oh, I don't want to let this person go or whatever. Or I don't want to let go of this book. I might need it someday. Or whatever it is, that avoidance, that hanging on to, we spend most of our lives in this state of resistance, avoiding everything that's uncomfortable. And so the magic of allowing the now is teaching you how to just allow the moment to be exactly as it is. Whatever's happening, your mind is racing. Okay, great. You're experiencing an emotion. Okay, great. You're feeling a physical sensation in your body. Like, okay, great. You're hearing sounds. Okay, excellent. Like, okay, whatever's happening in the moment, you're just letting it be without any need to change it, fix it, do anything about it, because it's not right, wrong, good, or bad. It just is. And when we can be open to the flow of what is, then we're opening the flow of abundance. Like, think about it this way. If you're in contraction and you're like, no, 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 and your hands are busy pushing something away, right? The universe, God, source, creator, whatever you call it, is literally showering money all over you. But if your hands are closed, how can you pick up the money? You can't. You cannot receive the abundance that is your birthright if you are resisting it and pushing it away. And so we can only ever be in one of two states, resistance or allowing. And allowing the now teaches you how to be in that state. You have your formal practice of your 5 minutes. Who doesn't have 5 minutes a day? And you can do it while you're brushing your teeth, doesn't matter, right? And then it starts to spill over into every area of your life where you just catch yourself doing it. Catch yourself allowing. And imagine if you could be the eye of the hurricane. Like everything else is chaos around you. And you're just like, oh, this is it. Okay. This is what is. Right? It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, oftentimes in my work, even talking to parents or people supporting other people, just this idea of like, put your oxygen mask on first, just like in the airplane, and then help those around you. What I love, and we've talked about this, is like, okay, I've started this work. And then I invited my husband to like, hey, let's allow the now. He's like, what is that crazy stuff? I was like, just trust me. First time he did it, he fell asleep. I was like, well, he is allowing the now. That's what it looks like, is falling asleep. And it's so interesting because you can have self-judgment swirling. Like when you talk about resistance, it's like, I'm resisting self-judgment, or I'm resisting any of that, whatever the thing is. Being in a state of resistance can look like being stuck and going, I don't want to look at just how it feels uncomfortable being stuck, or feeling confused, or feeling frustrated, or any of those, kind of grungy feelings. And you don't have to do anything with it. You just like sit there and you go, okay, pretty basic. But I think there's something wonderful you talked about about how people invite their families into this practice?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times when I work with clients, they have spouses, they have kids, and they're like, well, how do I get my kids to clean their room? Or how do I get my spouse to, do this or do that? Like, get them to do allowing the now with you. Do it as a family. And I have a lot of families that actually do it together. And it just creates so much peace and it just creates so much spontaneity. And the husband's like doing the honey-do list that's been like years in the making. It's like, oh my God, my husband just started doing this and he started cleaning out this. And it's like, just you be the example, you lead by example, and then you get your family to do it with you, and the results just multiply exponentially. And you also, touched on like, putting your own oxygen mask on first. And, what I want to say about the allowing the now practice is it's actually the greatest act of self love that you can do for yourself. Because ultimately, what you're doing is you're giving yourself the gift of your presence, right? And when we're in relationship with someone else, whether it's an intimate relationship or you're raising kids or it's just a friendship, the things that we want most are typically their time and attention, right? We want to spend time with them. We want their attention. Well, if the outside is a mirror of the inside, what is that actually saying? You want your own time and attention. And when you give yourself the gift of your time and attention, then you start teaching other people how to treat you and you start generating the results and the relationships that you actually want in your life.
Oh, I just got a big
Oh,
upgrade. I was like, wait a second. How I treat myself is a reflection of how I want other people to treat me.
yeah, you teach others how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. And if you don't give yourself the gift of your time and attention, but oh, he doesn't make any time for me. You start pointing the finger, and
Yeah.
then you get those four fingers pointing back at you, right? It's like, well, you're not making any time for you. So you can't. I love what I love about this work is like we always think it's out there, it's them. But because the outside is a mirror of the inside, it's like, no, let me not point the finger at them. Like, what is this showing me? Oh, I'm not making myself a priority. I'm not giving myself the time and attention. And once I start doing that, then all of a sudden, oh, hubby's got some time for me. Like he's paying attention. He's doing the things.
Right, right. And I actually love about this that there's no fault in here. Like that's really beautiful. There's no fault.
Yeah. No fault, no blame, no guilt, no
No
shame.
shame.
Like, nope.
No, gosh, that's so beautiful. Now, you have a very generous gift for our viewers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Tell
So
me
I
about
am the author of a book called Freedom from Clutter, the guaranteed foolproof step-by-step process to remove the stuff that's weighing you down, but I didn't write it to give out clutter. I actually don't care if you buy the physical copy because it'll probably just sit on your shelf. And so instead, what I do is I gift you with the whole book. All you need to do is put your name and email address in, and when you go to freegiftfrommel.com. But the great thing about that is it's going to get you into my community, and I am constantly offering workshops and challenges and always contributing and just giving to my community. So you will not just be on another mailing list. Like I'm constantly teaching workshops and challenges and things like that. So you will be invited to participate and just keep getting amazing content from me.
it's I have to say, I just told my friend you have to sign up for Mel's book and get the download. And then every day, I don't know how many days, every day I was like, number one, and do this. It's like, oh, good. Like there was just one baby step. It wasn't giant. And I felt like you were really supporting me each day with a new idea, but just an incremental little something, a little gem to keep me on track. So it's been really, really fun. And you're an international bestseller. Like you're amazing. You're just an amazing human being. And I'm so grateful for this time and the contribution to this community and just a simple upgrade of allowing the now and supporting families and allowing the now. Because really, isn't that where all change begins? Is from ourselves as a little drop in the pool and it just ripples out.
I mean, what's Gandhi's favorite quote? Be the change you wish to see. You get to change you first. And what I also want to say is thank you for the compliment I receive. And you spot it, you got it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Yeah, it's like, we think it's like, oh, we're pointing the finger and we're blaming somebody, but it works with compliments too. So if you see something in somebody else, you're like, oh my God, you're so amazing. You're so talented. You're so this, you're so that. You can't see it in the other person if it's not already in you. Boom.
Good job, Amy.
Yeah.
I do have that practice, by the way. I high five myself
Yes.
and I say, good job, Amy. And my kids, when I first started doing it, they'd look at me like, what's she doing? No, they're in their 20s. They're like, mom's doing something weird again. And
I
I'm
love
like,
it.
now they send me little high five emojis. I'm like, I just did this cool thing. Here's a picture of it. They're like, good job, mom. And then they the little emoji. I'm like,
Oh, love it.
yes,
See how you teach your
sir.
kids? The way you treat yourself is how you teach others to treat you. Look at that reflection right there.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
I'm like now my brain's starting to do its thing. It's Amy Day thing of like, oh, I can nerd out on this now.
Yeah, baby.
Thank you so much.
Oh my God. Thanks so much for having me. It's been an
Blessing.
honor.
Amazing.